everybody. Good afternoon. Many of you are already commenting. You're early today. We are early today because we're testing some new equipment. We're testing some new things ahead of Kouri Richins' trial. So we wanted to come on early. I'm Nate Eaton, by the way. We have a new system, which is amazing. I'm sitting here looking at all of your comments. So Auntie Ree from Southern Maine, hello. Hello from Jason Hanks from LA, Trudy Turner, Michigan. I can see all of your comments live, which might be a distraction to me, but that's okay. It's so good to have you here. I'm Nate Eaton. This is Courtroom Insider, and we are getting ready for the Kouri Richins trial. I have to admit that here in the studio, right to my left, is Jordan. Jordan, pop on in here, say hello. Everybody know Jordan?
Hi.
Jordan Wood, he is our amazing photographer, videographer. He made all of this happen. And we're so glad that you're with us. And we hope you'll be with us over the next few weeks as we cover this trial wall to wall, cover to cover. Opening statements set to begin Monday. And we will be streaming it live all throughout the next few weeks. So glad you're here. Peggy Jepson, our moderator, is also here. She will be joining us a bit later. I want your feedback too, by the way. Like I said, we're trying some new equipment, some new graphics, some new computers. So if you're like, oh, you're a little too dark, or oh, we can barely hear you, please comment because we can work to get those things. Very glitchy. Going out to refresh. Okay, good to know. I wonder if that's a glitch on your end or our end. Anybody else having glitch problems? Jordan says we might be. I'm going to switch to this camera. We think that'll help. Let me know if you are getting a glitch today, and might be our internet here too. So with that being said, we are talking all about Kouri Richins. You probably are familiar with the story. This is Kouri Richins with her husband, Eric. He died back in 2022. And this has been a case that has been in the news for quite some time. Can I do a double box with the graphic? Jordan's going to show me double box. There we go. Okay, now you can see what's on there. Kouri Richins, this is with her husband, a beautiful couple living in Utah when he died. Tonight, I'm going to go through the timeline of everything that was happening in here. People are saying it's better now. So good job, Jordan. We hot wired in. So good to see you. Good clear picture. Let's go through this. Before we get going, let's just review the charges. This is what Kouri Richins is charged with. You can see she's facing an aggravated murder charge, attempted murder charge, 5 counts of mortgage fraud, 7 counts of money laundering, communications fraud, engaging in patterns of unlawful activity, 5 counts of forgery, 7 counts of issuing a bad check. Now, all of these charges will not be discussed in the trial. There will be separate trials for some of them. But this is the big trial that's set to take place on Monday. And if you are interested in maybe going to the trial, you want to be there in Park City, I'll go through the court decorum order with you here in a moment, and I'll let you know when I'll be there. Okay, people are saying it's a little bit dark. So lots of people chatting, no video, just a photo of a helicopter. Well, I hope you can see me and that you're seeing more than the helicopter. And we will keep you posted here as we go. Okay, why don't we jump right into it? Before we get to that, Rachel Smith, she was the special prosecutor in the Daybell case. She will be here in just a moment. We're going to chat about the trial and what we can expect in this high-profile trial that is expected to take place over the next 3 to 4 weeks, maybe 5 weeks, as things get going here and as Kouri Richins goes before a jury. I have a timeline here. Let's go back March 4th, 2022. Kouri Richins calls the police, and she says that her husband is cold to the touch, her words. And just 1 second here. There we go. Okay, there we go. Kouri Richins calls the police. This is March 4th, 2022, so nearly 4 years ago. June 9th, 3 months later, Kouri Richins is charged with assault, which is a Class B misdemeanor in the state of Utah, for an altercation at her home with her sister-in-law. March 7th, the following year. So a whole year passes. It's really not in the news at this point. March 7th of 2023, Kouri Richins publishes a book called Are You With Me? It's a children's book about dealing with grief featuring her husband and sons. Now, I'm sure you've seen that she appeared on some local television stations to talk about this book. And that's really kind of what is the ironic thing about this case. 2 months later, May 8th of 2023, Kouri Richins is charged with killing her husband through a fentanyl overdose, and she is arrested. 10 days later, amended charges accuse her of fraud, claiming she took out $2 million in life insurance against her husband without his knowledge. So she's charged with killing her husband through fentanyl. Then she's charged with the life insurance charges in 2023. I remember the day that this happened. I was sitting in the Daybell case. There's two of me. Let me hit this button. There we go. I was sitting in the Daybell case, in Lori's case in Boise, and the reporters next to me are like, "Did you hear about this other woman? She poisoned her husband allegedly." And we pull up the story. And so I've always remembered it like, "Oh, you're kidding. There's this other story just down the street in Utah." And that was May 18th of 2023, when amended charges accused her of fraud. She took out $2 million allegedly in life insurance policy against her husband. Then the judge, the next month in June, Judge Mrazek denied a request from Kouri on a bail ruling, and she needed to stay in jail. Now, here's where it kind of gets interesting. September of 2023, a letter allegedly is found in jail where Kouri Richins is staying, called Walk the Dog. This is a letter in which she allegedly outlines false testimony for her mother and brother. I'm going to pull it up here. If you haven't seen this file, I'm going to read it with you. Let me go here. Okay. This is 4 pages. And Kouri Richins says, "Walk the dog," page 1, but take vague notes so you remember. Now, notice in the upper right-hand corner, it has an exhibit number, State 1239592. So they have clearly admitted this into the court record. Sky is saying even if the gummies have fentanyl in them, the prosecutor will say, "I tried to put the fentanyl in the gummies so Eric would have them. Stupid, I know, but that's what she's thinking. We will still test them, though. However, she wants to link Eric getting drugs and..." Remember what that says? Drugs and something from Mexico, so we need some kind of connection. Her private investigator is doing some research on the ranch/cartel place Eric would stay at. Here is what I'm thinking, but you have to talk to Ronnie. He would probably have to testify to this, but it's super short, not a lot to it. He will need to tell Sky at the meeting next week. Upon information and belief, just like they say, a year prior to Eric's death, Ronnie was over watching football one Sunday, and Eric and Ronnie were chatting about Eric's Mexico trips. Eric told Ronnie he gets pain pills and fentanyl from Mexico from the workers at the ranch. Not to tell me, because I would get mad, because I always said he just gets high every night and won't help take care of the kids. There are pictures in my phone of Eric passed out on the floor or in the chair. Ronnie would have texts from Eric talking about getting high as well. Eric told Ronnie he keeps them in an allergy pill bottle in his work truck so I wouldn't find them. Ronnie never told me about the conversation. Eric finally told me and asked if Carmen could get some. Eric never wanted anyone to know he had an issue, especially get caught. He always wanted Kouri to go down for him. When they traveled, Eric would put his drugs in Kouri's bag at the airlines right before they boarded. That way, if they were caught, Kouri got in trouble, not him. Pause here. If you're just tuning in, this is a note allegedly found in Kouri Richins' jail cell to her mother and brother, apparently outlining false testimony. Basically, read through the lines of what she's telling the story to be, so if they have to testify, which they probably would, they can have a story set, and that's what the prosecutor is alleging. So from there, we'll keep going. Once they got to wherever they were going, Eric would pull out the drugs out of her bag, and it would cause a huge fight. She was pissed he would risk her going to jail for his drug use. He would laugh about it. Eric wouldn't ruin his image that he had drug issues, so he would do whatever he had to. Kouri has never done any type of pills, didn't like them. Rarely would she consume THC, only if Eric begged her because it was a special occasion. Asterisk. Reward this, however, he needs to make the point, just include it all. Reword this, however. He needs to make the point, just include it all. The connection has to be made with Mexico and drugs. Ronnie will have the messages to prove Eric confided in him about getting high. It can be short and to the point, but has to be done. Upon information and belief, LOL. They never found pain pills or fentanyl in my house because he hid it in an allergy bottle in work truck. And Cody emptied out work truck within a week, so they were never found. Page 3. When you talk to Ronnie about this, meet up with him in person. I worry sometimes your house and phone are bugged. Maybe drive down to SL, Salt Lake, and meet him after work without Bree. Sky has to make the connection between Eric and Mexico because that makes the most sense in her mind. If it's Ronnie's information and belief about the conversation over football, she can use that as a connection. Tell Ronnie don't overanalyze it. It was a quick 2-minute conversation, LOL. Tell him I need him to do this. Bring me home and then we will get those damn bitches. Also, please text Lotto or call. Tell him do not text me anything about us doing things together ever, like church, skiing, trips. Nothing that puts us together. It doesn't look good. We're so close to the end. Let's push through, have the conversation with Ronnie before he meets with Sky. Then tell him to tell Sky at the meeting about the conversation. Hang in there. We're almost there. Love you to the moon. Take vague notes of all this so you remember before you walk the dog. Page 4. I saw a commercial yesterday. Utah Mortgage Relief. Google them, please. It's for people behind on their mortgage. Can you see if they can help at all on Marissa's house, please? We have to get hers, yours, and Chelsea's taken care of ASAP. Try to go to that place in Camas. What about asking Lotto to do a loan solely in his name and not have you on there? I know he can do a home equity line of credit on his house in Hideout. Not sure if he would, but I know he has like $1 million in equity. Maybe he just doesn't know about a HELOC, home equity. If he wants to help me, taking care of these loans is most important. I don't give a shit about the yodels. Yodels? Remember I told you one way to get at Katie is going through my phone and finding a picture of her girls, even with the boys. Print 15 copies and send them out anonymously to different media companies. Obviously don't email the pictures so it's not traceable. She would be livid if it got out to the public. You would just have to do it sneaky and careful. She would try and trace it back to you. If not, no worries. Page 5. Sky is having my girls do the first interview with Good Morning America. Please tell Chelsea to bring up that he hasn't been to church in the 13 years she's known him, and Eric would brag to her about how much he drank and did pills in high school. Tell Kelsey to say, quote, Eric always wanted Kouri to go down for him. For example, he would put drugs in her suitcase when we would travel together. So if anyone got caught, it was Kouri. He would put it in her bag right before they left the house so Kouri didn't know. Then when we would wherever, Eric would take them out of her bag and Kouri would be pissed and they would argue about it. Tell Kelsey to say how Eric didn't care and would just laugh about it and say, well, I can't get in trouble, as if it was okay that I got in trouble. Have Selma talk about Eric in Spain not being able to drink, so he was looking for drugs the entire time, and explain the drink the waitress gave him and how I called his doctor and went to the pharmacy immediately. Have Allie talk about how the sisters have always been jealous of me because anything they could do, Kouri could do better. Being a mom, college, stay-at-home wife until she built $1 million company, a nice house, car, everything she had, they wanted. This comes down to jealousy, money, and Eric's partying that they don't want to acknowledge and sadly an accidental overdose. Lastly, don't forget to work on the gun receipts. We want to file charges and let the prosecutor not do anything about it to use in our defense. Will you buy a box of Crest white strips, open them up, put them in an envelope, and have Sky give them to me? Now remember, Kouri's in jail. She's asking for white strips for her teeth. Sky, the attorney. You can tell her what's in the envelope. I'm sure she won't care. I'll make sure they can't be found in my cell. My teeth are yellow from so much coffee and tea all day. Frowny face. I love you. I love you. I love you. Hang in there. We're getting there slowly. You're the best mom in the whole world. I'm so lucky to have you. What do you think? What do you think? Those of you, I can see your comments right now live. What do you think of the letter? So this is a letter, again, that was found in Kouri Richins' cell, her jail cell, to her mom and brother, called Walk the Dog, and the prosecutors say that she was outlining false testimonies for her family. Well, motions were filed after this letter was found. I don't know if she got her white strips. That would be interesting because it can be very hard to get things into jail, but then again, it can be very, very easy. I once spoke with the people who were in charge of moving an entire prison. They built a new prison and they moved out an entire population of prisoners to the new facility, and then they cleaned the old one, and you would not believe what they found in there. It was crazy what had made its way into the prison. And people find a way to get it in. So, and clearly she didn't get this letter out because they found it in there, but I don't know if she got the white strips in. Okay, so the judge, after they found this letter, the judge denied a motion to dismiss charges based on allegations that prosecutors breached professional conduct rules in publishing the letter. Her defense attorneys filed a motion that the prosecutors were bad. They shouldn't have released this letter. And because of that, the charges should be dismissed. He also denied a motion to restrict Kouri's contact with family members and a motion from her to remove the prosecutors from the case. So her defense team got upset. They said, kick the prosecutors off. They shouldn't, the charges need to go because they released this letter, this private letter. Judge denied him. Prosecutors filed a motion saying she shouldn't be able to talk to her family. Judge denied that too. That all happened in 2023. Now we're in 2024. January, right at the beginning of the year, court documents reveal that Eric Richins' autopsy found medications prescribed to Kouri in his system in addition to the fentanyl. So he had fentanyl in his system and meds meant for his wife. March of 24, Richins is charged with attempting to murder her husband on Valentine's Day, weeks before his death, in amended charges. So she tried to kill him allegedly on Valentine's Day of 22. It didn't work. Then weeks later, according to the prosecutor, she succeeded. So that's why there's amended charges. That's why on the charges document I showed you a minute ago, it was on there. Sorry, I just saw a comment. This would have loved hearing Nate say the V word. Just had to read it. I'm sorry. I don't know. Jordan's here with me. This new commenting system might distract me. I think you guys, I won't be able to hold it together. I'm going to have to maybe hide the comments, but I do love seeing them. Peggy, if you're on, please comment. I'm not seeing you comment. Peggy, our moderator, she should be on here, and we're going to bring her on here in just a minute. But Peggy, say something in the comments. Back to the timeline. Okay, so Kouri Richins is charged in March of 24 that she tried to kill her husband earlier. Then in May, she's found guilty in the assault case after not following a plea conditions in the agreed upon time period. So that's the smaller case. A newly unsealed search warrant revealed that her mother, this is interesting, Kouri's mother, had a romantic partner who died of a, quote, suspicious overdose back in 2006. The mother that apparently got this letter. The judge allowed her, Sky, the attorney referenced in this letter, in May of 24, allowed Sky Larazzo to withdraw from her firm over an ethical issue, and this delayed the preliminary hearing. In May of 2024, she proclaimed her innocence in voice recordings sent to national media before her new attorneys were appointed. I'm going to see if I can play those for you now. Recording. She sent it out to the national media. Why don't we play this one? We'll see if this works. Okay, bear with me if it doesn't. I'm going to hit play here. If I hit 2.
The wife and mother accused of poisoning her husband to death and then writing a children's book about dealing with grief is speaking out from jail. Kouri Richins proclaiming her innocence. She says she's...
Okay, stand by. Sorry, technical problems. Okay, Jordan, what do we need to do?
On your laptop, you need to do output.
Okay, stand by, everybody. We're going to change some things here. By the way, if you haven't told me where you're watching from, let me know, because we go back and we look at all this. HDMI splitter?
Yep.
Okay. Okay, this is Kouri Richins, a message she sent to media proclaiming her innocence, let me see, back in May of 2024.
We've covered the story from the very beginning, and Kelsey Kernstein is here. Kelsey, what has she been saying now?
You know, Adrian, she is claiming that she's innocent. So what she did is she spoke to NBC's Dateline in jail, saying she's ready to put up a fight. She also says she's anxiously waiting to prove she did not lace her husband's cocktail with fentanyl. Now, this right here is the home just outside of Park City, Utah, where Eric Richins' body was found at the foot of his bed, unresponsive, back in March of 2022. Since his wife's arrest in May of 2023, she has been in jail where she faces multiple charges. So prosecutors say that Kouri Richins' marriage was falling apart and she wanted to cash in on multiple life insurance policies. In a jailhouse interview with Dateline, she says, quote, I'm anxious. I'm anxious to prove my innocence. I'm anxious to get to trial. And I'm ready to give this one hell of a fight. I've been silent for a year, locked away from my kids, my family, my life, living with the media, telling the world who they think I am, what they think I've done, or how they think I've lived. And it's time to start speaking up. You took an innocent mom away from her babies, Richins said. This means war. So among the evidence, prosecutors say they have proof that Kouri Richins bought $900 worth of fentanyl. They claim she placed it in a Moscow Mule cocktail that she then gave her husband. The autopsy report reveals that Eric had 5 times the lethal amount of fentanyl in his body. And then earlier this year, more documents were filed against Kouri Richins, claiming this wasn't the first time she tried to kill her husband. Prosecutors allege that she also tried to kill him about a month earlier with a drugged Valentine's Day sandwich. So then shortly after Eric Richins' death, Kouri Richins promoted a children's book she wrote about dealing with grief called Are You With Me?
He was 39. It completely took us all by shock. And we have 3 little boys, 10, 9, and 6. And, you know, my kids and I kind of wrote this book on the different emotions and grieving processes that we've experienced last year.
Kouri and Eric Richins, they have been married for 9 years. The state has decided not to pursue the death penalty. She faces 25 years to life in prison.
Okay, there we go. I hope you could hear that okay. Let me know if you could. If you couldn't, I know it was soft there in the beginning. That's the first time we've tried this system, but we got to hear her proclaim her innocence when she spoke to Dateline, and she says that she has done nothing wrong. That was back in 2024, so over 2 years ago. Then Kouri is given new attorneys. And guess what? One of them is the same attorney for Tyler Robinson, the man accused of shooting and killing Charlie Kirk. So her name is Catherine Nestor. Also, Wendy Lewis and Alexander Ramos. Those 3 attorneys you'll hear a lot from over the next 4 weeks, obviously, because they are her prosecutors. Did Peggy just get on here? Peggy, I hope you're here. Peggy, you're logged in as you. You might want to log in as East Idaho News. Just giving you a heads up. But good. Glad you're here. Glad everybody's here. Everyone say hi to Peggy, our moderator. There she is. She just logged in as East Idaho News. Thank you. Very informal today, everybody. Hope you're okay with that as we get this going. Okay, so let's pick up. We're almost done with the timeline, and then we're going to get to Rachel Smith. In November of 2024, the judge granted a request from Kouri Richins to try the mortgage fraud charges separately. So that'll be a separate trial, and denies the request to reconsider bail. Officers testified in 25 that their testimony can be brought into trial. Let's see. There were issues about media coverage. Her attorneys tried really, really hard to get this case moved out of Park City, Utah, saying that they could not find a fair jury. They filed a motion that the judge denied. It went all the way to the Utah Supreme Court. The Utah Supreme Court kicked it back down to the local level and said, no, let the local judge stand. And then just 3 or 4 weeks ago, they filed another motion to move it to Salt Lake. The judge denied it. They said there could not be a fair trial. This case was actually supposed to begin last April of 25. But because of the appeals to get it moved, it got delayed. Well, then the trial was set to begin now in March of 26. The interesting thing is that they set aside about 2 weeks to find a jury, a week and a half. They got a jury picked in 1.5 days. It was super fast. So the argument that they couldn't find a fair jury, they got the jury picked in a day and a half. And that's the interesting thing to a lot of people. And because of that, we'll talk here with Rachel Smith in a moment, that she believes that because of that, the trial should go quicker than we might think, quicker than 4 weeks. In June of last year, June of 2025, a new case was filed against her with some mortgage fraud cases moved from the other case and new charges. In October, the prosecutors removed the charges for drug distribution. In November, the judge denied a request for another bail hearing. In January, just a few weeks ago, he made a decision on what's going to be allowed in at trial, what evidence is. Jury selection began on February 10th, and the trial begins on Monday. All right? You got all that? That's just a base understanding of what we can expect. Now, Rachel Smith is, real quick, I want to go over the charges once again. Here we go. Let's take this full. If I hit this button, aggravated murder. These are all of the charges she faces combined. Aggravated murder, attempted murder, mortgage fraud, money laundering, communications fraud, engaging in pattern of unlawful activity, forgery, and issuing bad checks. And these are the charges she faces. Now, one of the people that knows a lot about these type of crimes is Rachel Smith. She was the special prosecutor brought in on the Chad and Lori Daybell cases. She has done hundreds of cases. She has done death penalty cases. She has done murder cases. She has done complex cases. She has done all sorts of stuff. Her resume is just amazing, and she's very, very smart. And I asked her if we could chat a little bit about this case and what we can expect as viewers and what the court system can expect here over the next few weeks. And I want to let you know that we taped this a little bit earlier today, so it is a fresh interview, but I'm wearing a different shirt. My evidence shirt, here, can we go here? This says, "Don't worry, I'm just here for the evidence." We have a few of these left, by the way, if you wanted one. I'm wearing a different shirt, but it's so cold today in Idaho. It was 7 degrees this morning when I went to the gym that I had to put on a sweatshirt. So that being said, let's jump over to this interview with Rachel Smith as she talks about what we can expect here over the next few weeks. Rachel, so good to see you again. I'm interested to know your thoughts, having done high-profile cases. We're just 3 or 2 days away from Kouri Richins going to trial. It's been years in the making, 4 to 5 week trial, high publicity, woman who's accused of killing her husband with drugs and then using money, all sorts of allegations. What type of things do you think the prosecutor is doing over this next weekend to be sure this trial is strong and effective for the jury?
You know, the prosecution going into a high profile case the weekend before is dotting their I's and crossing their T's. They're putting together a really solid list of jury questions. What is your list? They are talking about who gets struck, who they want to get rid of, and ideally who they would sit. And they are really focusing on their opening and how they're going to frame the case for the jury so that the jury understands what's coming in the next few days or few weeks.
Do you put your strongest witness up first or save them for the end?
It depends on the strength of the case. I think one of the things that's important is that a prosecutor has to have a coherent case theory, which is how, what, when, where, and then the reason why it happened. And that often translates into a theme where you summarize for the jury, give them a lens by which you need to see it. So if putting your strongest witness forward contributes and helps make that theory clear, yes. If there are things you need to lay down systematically to help that main witness be relevant, then you have to put those beginning pieces first. A lot of prosecutors will start with next of kin for the victim. to help make sure that the jury focuses on who was taken, not just on who took them.
Yeah. There are some elements in this case that have similar themes to like the Daybell case, as far as money and sex. Obviously, she's married to the victim, was married to the victim, and then wrote a book about death after the fact. And there might be some bit of complicated timeline and whatnot. How do you make it so that your presentation is clear and succinct as possible when there can be some confusion as far as timeline and people and names and things like that?
Absolutely. You work really closely with the lead detectives and law enforcement to develop as clear a timeline as you can. In a case like this, or in the Daybell case, or in candidly most murders, timeline matters a lot to a jury. People think in terms of story, and stories have a timeline to them. That's how we're taught. That's how we think. That's what makes a good show. And so the prosecution will really focus in cases like this on timeline. They will focus on key events in the timeline and the evidence that supports those events, that shows what the person did and why they deserve to be punished.
The theme, so it seemed, during the Daybell trials was money, power, sex. It's a memorable 3-word phrase that we heard that you as prosecutors stressed, not just in Lori's trial, but in Chad's as well. Is that on purpose? Is that to kind of get that message out to the jurors so that they can repeatedly come back to those in those moments of confusion?
Absolutely. That use of theme, and it can be a phrase, it can be words, it can be an idea, helps the jury see your evidence as they're hearing it from your point of view. Getting a jury to understand and connect the dots when they don't have a framework is very challenging. So theme helps the jury assess a witness and helps them begin to internalize your perception. For example, in Daybell, we literally worked a long time to take vast categories of evidence and kind of put them into buckets. And we actually divided the workload somewhat along those buckets, money, power, sex. So it's an organizational tool, but it's also a tool for persuasion for the jury. And we learned that some of the jurors said at first we weren't sure about that theme, but we began to ask ourselves at the end of the day or the beginning of the day, are we going to hear about money, power, or sex? For a prosecutor, hearing that from the jurors, it reinforces, that means they're already thinking about it my way. Right? They're already viewing it from the lens of how we think they're relevant. So that a theme, an organizational tool or message is extremely important in complicated cases with challenges to get out there and to get out front.
How much thought goes into the order of the witnesses? I mean, there were times, again, harkening back to Daybell, where you might have a detective on the stand for several hours, and then suddenly, bam, you call up a Colby Ryan or a Summer Shiflett, someone who, wow, this is going to be really compelling. Is that to keep the interest of the jury? Not that detectives are boring, but sometimes if you're going through financial data or GPS pings or cell phone, that can be a little dry versus the personal thing. And how often is it like a night before thing, like, oh, we're going to switch the order, we're going to switch this? How often do you go through that?
No, I think those are really good points. There is a lot of thought to order. It's about telling the story of what happened, not that it's fiction, but in terms of the narrative, people by and large think of terms of narrative. So there's a lot of thought about the order in which you present evidence. Yeah, but every night on Daybell, we met as a team, and candidly, I've done that with almost every complicated trial I have. You meet the night before, and I was helping on a murder case recently, sort of in a consultant role, but we met every night, and one of our key witnesses had to have emergency surgery. right? So you have to be able to adjust and adapt. So yes, you keep the story, you keep the narrative, you work towards your theme, but every night you're, okay, who's up next? Do we have any issues? Is it making sense? And then one sort of internal thing that prosecutors are taught is the idea of primacy and recency. What the jury hears first, they tend to remember what they hear last. So you try, without um, making it too contrived, to have your day start with powerful evidence and end with powerful evidence. And so you'll see some of that. And I love my DNA people. I hope nobody who's been my witness on DNA says anything, but it's not particularly riveting. And sometimes it can be very scientific, which is not thrilling. But the evidence is powerful. I don't want to disclaim it. It's powerful evidence, but that's an argument, not in presentment. So you try to temper that with somebody who comes after, who reconnects to the victim or reconnects to the scene, or helps see, that has an interest to what I call normal people who are on the jury,
Right.
and not just lawyers.
Well, and I've noticed in trials too, even when the DNA experts are up there and it gets a little dry, it seems that often the prosecutor will say, in summary, summarize it toward the end so that you get the key points of that testimony, so that you're not caught up on the chromosomes and this and that. What about when the defendant decides to testify? As a prosecutor, do you want that? Do you want to be able to grill them? Is that risky if they're really good on the stand? I mean, how do you take that into account?
You plan for it. I always hope for it. I think the jury hopes for it. It is not as common as one would think. Most defense attorneys rightfully keep the person off the stand, because if they were really good at talking their way out of things, they might not be sitting there. So I understand and respect defense counsel who advocate for that, but yes, you plan for it. A cross-examination by a prosecutor is fundamentally different than cross by a defense attorney. We don't get to be like Tom Cruise against Jack Nicholson we don't get to do that. The jury doesn't want us showboating. They want us to be fair, honest, thorough, and no tricks. So we don't get to do some of the fun stuff that defense counsel can do, not legitimately, not with credibility. So cross is about establishing what you can agree on, proving your elements to the extent you can, highlighting the untruthfulness, the malice, the murder, the motive, the intent, and sitting down. So I think people are sometimes disappointed by a prosecutor's cross because they want us to be Tom Cruise.
Yeah.
But they forget that's not our job.
Right. Well, we love it when the defendants do take the stand as
Yeah.
reporters. I mean, it grabs headlines, and in many cases, it's the first time you've actually heard from the defendant. If they're not doing interviews with the media, this is the first time you've heard it and their version of events. And sometimes they can be very compelling and sometimes they can't. But I could see how it can kind of be a mixed thought on the prosecutor side. Speaking of the media, this is going to be a live streamed trial every day. We'll be live streaming it, media all over the place. It's a little bit of I don't want to say sensational trial, but it has eyeballs. People are going to be watching it. How does that play into account when the defense has not wanted cameras? The defense has tried to move the trial multiple times to another county that's staying where the crime happened, alleged crimes happened. So do you have a different approach when you know that there's going to be cameras in there?
Oh, absolutely. I believe in the public's right to get in the courtroom, but it does complicate, the presence of the press complicates any trial. So you have to prepare your witnesses. You have to have them ready to deal with being, on center stage. You have to be very careful about your attitude, your demeanor, some of the casualness that sometimes happens between colleagues or lawyers and stuff cannot exist because it gets inadvertently displayed. And sometimes the public, I've never had a reporter do it, but sometimes the public misinterprets that. It also, I have noticed by and large, judges will play to the cameras. I have two big shout out exceptions. The judge who was on Lori's trial in Arizona and
Judge
Judge
Boreski.
Boyce. Yeah, Judge Boreski, which I saw on your show. That was fun. That was awesome. I don't think he did, and I really do not believe Judge Boyce did, so I want to do those clarifiers. But I have had situations where I felt like the court is playing to a particular camera. And I've seen it historically where I believe a judge has made rulings because of public opinion. And I'm always mindful of that. I'm always fearful of that. But fortunately, in those instances with Lori Vallow, I don't believe the judges did that.
Yeah, they were quite reserved, in my opinion, when they could have been a little more vocal if they wanted headlines, which those two clearly did not. And it's an interesting day and age too, because we're seeing with right now the Nancy Guthrie disappearance, how the sheriff has come out to and made statements about not the traditional type journalists, you'd say, but like the bloggers and the YouTubers and the social media influencers who have shown up, hundreds of them, and are doing their own reporting. And we see that at these trials too, where you might have the traditional journalists, and I'm not knocking the social media influencers, at least not all of them. Some of them you would worry about. I know that, during the Daybell trial, some stuff was put out there that clearly wasn't true, but it's the interpretation of it. So not only are you dealing with the media per se, the traditional, but also the other people, the public who are coming to watch these things.
Absolutely. Now, in the Daybell trial, we had witnesses who were intimidated, like people across the street from their homes where their grandchildren are, motivated by social media people. People who had to take restraining orders out against some bloggers. So I'm an advocate. I come on your show. I've been on others. So everybody has a right to their courtrooms. But they do not have a right to make witnesses' lives different or try to solve the case themselves. It always hurts the prosecution and the witnesses. There's just no justification for that level of targeting.
Yeah.
And it made our jobs harder for at least two of the witnesses, likely three, to even get their cooperation.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, Rachel, it's always good talking with you. This will be a fascinating trial to watch as we kicks off Monday. And they thought that it would take about 2 weeks to get a jury. They got one in a day and a half. After the defense twice, it went all the way to the Utah Supreme Court saying we need to move this trial. The Supreme Court tossed it back and they said we're keeping it here. They were able to get that trial. I mean, is that any indication that this trial might go faster than 4 weeks if they got a jury in a day and a half, or is that kind of a separate matter?
No, I think it's an indication that it's going to go faster. I would not be surprised that things go faster. Jury selection and your ability to kind of weed things out is a sort of a barometer on how both sides are going to behave and how the court's going to rule. So I suspect it will go faster than people think.
Yeah. Well, all righty. Anything you want to add?
No, thank you. I appreciate you coming on. I'll be watching to see what comes out.
Okay, we'll have to have you come back and get your thoughts as the trial progresses.
Oh, I'd love to. I love coming on your show. So
thank you, Ray. There we go. Big thanks to Rachel. Hold on. Big thanks to Rachel. Allow? Firewall. Yeah. Okay. We're getting a firewall pop-up right when I cut out of that interview, and it looks like we have a guest who's joined us right here.
You'll just go to that one.
Okay. There we go. Okay, everybody. Thanks to Rachel. Thank you for watching too. Here's what we're going to do now. We're going to go join Peggy. Hit show on stream.
Yep.
Peggy is our comment moderator. We sometimes call her the moderator. Exit that. Do you see two of me now? But now you don't. Now you see me and Peggy. Peggy, how are you?
I'm great. How are you? How is everyone?
Good to see you. Thank you for doing this. This is our inaugural broadcast, our inaugural Courtroom Insider with this new system. So, Peggy, the trial starts Monday. What do people need to know if they're going to come and watch with us, which we hope all of you will watch with us?
Yes, we want everyone to come. First and foremost, be kind. Stay on topic. If you're not going to say it in front of your mom, don't say it in front of the moderator.
Yeah,
And
because
if
Peggy's.
you do feel like you can, don't.
Yes. We want you to
And-
comment. You know, these trials,
Yes.
we would love to hear your thoughts about the witnesses and the statements and whatnot. And Peggy's there to clean it up. Peggy, a lot of people have questions that they want us to talk
Yeah.
about at Courtroom Insider at night. What should they just put those in the comments? Where's the best place for them to leave their comments and questions?
They can, but it's going to get flooded there, and it's going to probably be hard for me to find them all. So if you'll go to questions@eastidahonews.com.
Questions@eastidahonews.com. Those emails go to Peggy and me. I often don't have time to go through them all, but she goes through them and then she puts them there and then gets them to me. Someone's saying, please remember to do something with the lighting. Are you talking about my lighting or Peggy's lighting?
It could be my lighting.
Yeah, I just told Peggy 5 minutes ago, I said, Peggy, you're coming on with me. I didn't give her a chance to get set up. So please forgive us. If there's issues with my lighting, they'll let me know and we can tweak some things around with the background or whatever.
I don't know.
It says Peggy's echoing. So, Peggy, I'm
what
sorry.
Everybody wants to hear is me twice.
I hope it's not a bad echo. It might be also that your sound's coming through my mic too. So Peggy, I appreciate you sticking with us for this. Appreciate all you viewers watching this too, as we try to work out our kinks in the system. This will hopefully allow me to bring on more live interviews as things pop up rather than having to do other stuff. Is there anything that you want to add?
No, I just think we become a big family and it's fun, and let's just keep it light and fun.
Light and fun. Okay, Peggy, we'll talk soon. Thank you.
Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye. Thanks to Peggy for tuning in. Okay, I want to let everybody give Peggy some love. She'd love to read your comments. Now, a couple things if you want to go to court. And Jordan, is there anything you want to say before we go? Jordan's here.
Yeah, I'll pop in.
Okay, come on in, Jordan.
2.
Oh yeah, go to 2. Go to 2 while I pull up the court order.
Hey, as I always say on most live streams, thank you so much for watching and sticking with us as we figure out this new system. I'm pretty excited about it, but yeah, it should be interesting. And yeah, thanks for sticking around, and make sure you comment. And if something doesn't sound right, or if you notice something that I might not have noticed, you can let me know. Just if the volume needs to be turned up, or like the lighting needs to be adjusted, yeah, just let us know. But again, thank you so much for watching and for all the support.
Okay, sweet. They're saying I'm a little dark. We'll work on that. One of the funnest things about going to Arizona for Lori's trial was our donut runs that Jordan and I would go on. If you watched, you knew that we would try all these donut shops. We might have to do this during the Kouri Richins trial if we can find a moment. Now, I will not be in the courtroom every day this time around because of some seating technicalities. If you need to go, Jordan, you're okay, but you can stay. Up to you. The judge is allowing 10 media seats on the front row. If you get a media seat, you can bring in your phone and or a laptop. The rest of the seats, I'll go through how the seating is going to work. There'll be about 24 seats for the public. That's it. I could go and wait in line in the public line, but then if I get a public seat, phones and laptops are not allowed at all. So if you're planning to go to the trial, you cannot have your phone. I put in for media seats next week, and I was accepted for Tuesday. For me to go from Idaho down to Park City, where hotels are crazy expensive for one day, logistically, it would just be too hard for me. So I will not be in court next week. The following week, I will try to go. That doesn't mean that I'm still going to be here covering it. We're still going to be live streaming it every day. I'm still going to do Courtroom Insider. We're still going to have the coverage. I just won't be in the courtroom. I'll be doing the live written updates too. Then hopefully I'll get in the courtroom the following week. Now, I do want to go through this if you plan to go, and so that you know the rules, should you be watching and should you see what's happening there. This is the decorum order issued by the judge that I'm going to pull up here. It's just verifying. Okay, let me make this big. Here we go. This is, I'm going to scroll down. It's 8 pages. He talks about the reasons why we have it. Courtroom B, we'll start here. Courtroom B has limited seating. The number of spectators shall not exceed courtroom capacity. The defendant, counsel of record, and counsel support staff may sit in front of the bar. All other spectators must sit behind the bar, separating the well from the gallery. The first row of the gallery is reserved for up to 10 media representatives who have prior approval from Tanya Mashburn, the Director of Communications. So there'll be media in the front row. The second row, the seating is limited to 12 spots. On odd numbered days, the second row of the gallery shall be reserved for Eric Richins' family and friends. On even numbered days, the second row of the gallery shall be reserved for Kouri Richins' family and friends. So they're going to rotate even odd. There's 12 seats. Kouri's family gets even numbered days. Eric Richins' family gets odd numbers days. Now to the fifth row. Okay, that froze up. Of course, the second Jordan walked out, it froze up. Maybe what I can do this. Okay, no, I can't do that because there I'm frozen. Here I'm not. I'm just gonna have to read this to you. I apologize. Second row. Okay, fifth row is 12 spots. Odd numbers days will be for Kouri's family. Even numbered days, Eric. So they're going to be rotating rows back and forth. Their family can be in the courtroom every day. They'll just rotate back and forth. Who's on the second, who's on the fifth. The third and fourth row are reserved for the public. These two rows, public and media representatives who have a wristband. They're going to be giving out wristbands. Wristbands will be allocated on a first come, first served basis each day at 8 a.m. Spectators need to line up prior to 8 a.m. in front of the courthouse outside. So 24 seats. That's it. Daybell, they got around 60, 70 in Idaho, and same with Arizona. This is a much different area. The seating on the right side of the gallery is for court TV, court personnel. Yes, family can be there every day. Someone's asking, but they'll be limited on where they can sit. Some days they'll be on the second row. Some day they'll be on the fifth, and they'll rotate back and forth. Court personnel are authorized to manage the people. All spectators shall follow the rules. These are the rules. No shoulder bags, backpacks, or other items. You can't have bags. Quiet, civil, and orderly at all times. You can't be disruptive, provocative, distracting, or uncivil. You cannot make any audible comments of any kind. You cannot shake or nod your heads. You cannot make any gestures in the courtroom. You cannot wear or display pins, signs, buttons, clothing, or photographs expressing support for or against any person related to this case. Do not show up in this shirt. Please don't. If you do, put a jacket over it. Some of you I know showed up in Arizona with your mugshot shirts, which I appreciated, but cover it up. You cannot pass the bar or enter the well. That's where everybody sits. You have to exit and leave without causing disruption. If you leave the courtroom, you cannot go back in until a recess. At the end of the day, you have to stay in the courtroom until they give permission to leave. You cannot, portable electronic devices shall be placed on silent mode. No one shall use them to record court proceedings, photograph, or transmit images or sounds during court proceedings. Media representatives are allowed to do that. We just have to keep our phones below the rail. We can't put them up there along with our laptops. They have to stay down. People in the second, third, fourth, and fifth row shall not use devices in the courtroom. You cannot manipulate their devices in any way. You must keep them in the pocket. If you're seen with a device, you'll be booted out. And there could be other penalties. There is very limited parking. There's basically no parking if you're not related directly to the case or jurors or things like that. Access to the courthouse parking lot will be done by a vehicle hanging tag. And additional orders, Court TV will be doing the pool video, and we will have that for you here every day. We'll have a clean feed for you starting. I'll go over that in a minute. You cannot record or take photos inside the courthouse at all. They've bolded that in the lobby, very similar to Daybell. You can't take any photos in there. Let's see, if news reporters have to comply with it, they can do interviews outside away from the courthouse, but not up by the doors. And no media interviews inside the courtroom. There's like 50 points on this. And I'll put a link if you want to go watch it. So if you violate these orders, you will be excluded from the courtroom temporarily or permanently. A media outlet could be excluded. You could also serve up to 30 days in jail and be fined $1,000 for each offense. And the judge could order other sanctions as well. So that is the order, and that is the way that it will be. Any questions? Let me know. Those of you who aren't going, which I hope is probably, well, not hope, I believe it's many of you, here is how you can watch and you can stay up to date here. What I'm going to do is exit out of here. Let me see if this works now. There we go. This is where you can keep track of what is going to be happening next week. 8:15 every morning. Yeah, no one shall breathe in the courtroom. I think you can breathe, Jennabelle. Okay, so Kouri Richins complete coverage. 8:15. We're going to do every day. I'm going to come on and do a Richins recap here on the East Idaho News YouTube channel. Or if you're watching on Meet and the Eatons, I'll be there too. So we're going to start live at 8:15. It's going to be me and you talking. I'm going to be keeping an eye on the big screen, making sure that the trial is about to start. So we'll have the trial up on this screen. I'll be keeping an eye on it. We'll be recapping what happened the day before and what we can expect that day. So 8:15 Mountain Time. If you can tune in, join us. We'll be here. We'll be chatting about 15 minutes. The live thing will start. The live streaming will start at 8:30. That's when I'll start the live written updates all day long on East Idaho News and on my X account. So you can follow along. If you cannot watch, you can read the written stuff. Then what we'll have is at 7 o'clock, Courtroom Insider, just like we're doing here. I know it's not 7 o'clock, it's 3 o'clock, but we wanted to come on early today to get a little the kinks worked out. So 8:15 is the recap. 8:30 the live streaming. 8:30 the same time we'll do the written updates, and then 7 o'clock Courtroom Insider. Any questions? Let me know. Speaking of questions, if you have any, I can try to answer them for you now, and we will do some shout outs right now. Kokomo, Indiana. I guess you are in Indiana. Thanks for watching, Indiana. Robin Boutine, you finally caught a live. She says, I've never caught a live. Woohoo. And I'm glad you caught us this afternoon. Amber WL, hey, Nate, I just joined. Good. Thanks for being here, Amber. Good to see you. And good to see all the rest of you who have joined me. I appreciate it. Let me see who else we have here. I'm just learning this stuff. So Teresa K, you're late, but we're glad you're here. That's great. Good to see you. All the potatoes, the pain a mountain trial time zone when you're in an earlier time zone. I know it can be a pain. But on the flip side, if you're in New York and a trial starts at 8, for us here in Idaho, that's 6. So we have to come in early to get it ready. Anyway, thank you so much for being here tonight. I want to thank newspapers.com. They have been an excellent sponsor. I'm going to pull up their website. Somebody give me a topic in the comments, and we're going to do a search. And here we're on newspapers.com. Give me a topic, something that I can look up for you and see what we find in here in the comments. The time zones were Mountain Time. If that's what you're wondering, the time zones that I had earlier were Mountain Time. Okay, let's see. We want to, yes, Mountain Standard Time. Thank you. Hello from Scotland. Good to see you. And we appreciate you watching from Scotland. I'm waiting for somebody to give me a topic. Well, you know what? Why don't we try Kouri Richins? This is more of a historical type website, but oh, well, there we go. Elko Free Press. Let's click on that, see what we find. Kouri Richins, kids book author accused of murder, changing life insurance. This is a story from the AP that was in the Elko Free Press back in 2023. So here is a whole story about it. And when I'm on newspapers.com, you can see that Kouri Richins, 46 stories in Utah, 3 in Nevada, 16 California, Michigan, had a bunch. You can go through and find all of these stories. Utah mother, there she is, and children's book author Kouri Richins to stand trial in husband's death, judge rules. This was from 2024. Prince Andrew, someone said Prince Andrew. That's a good one. Why don't we see what comes up on that? Again, this is historical stuff. So some of these newspapers are recent and most are from the past. But newspapers.com has been has been quite incredible for us. And we just have to thank them for sponsoring us. So if you want to, what says Prince Andrew starts NB visit tomorrow. This was from 1985, and where you can catch a glimpse of Prince Andrew. Anyway, newspapers.com, check them out. There's some interesting, fascinating stuff in there, and we really appreciate them for sponsoring us here on Courtroom Insider. Here is where you can follow me. There we go. I'm on Facebook or Nate Eaton Reporter. You can follow me on X. Nate News Now is where I'm at, and where I'll be posting updates. N.Eaton on Instagram. Hop over to Instagram, say hello, and East Idaho News on YouTube. If you haven't hit subscribe, please subscribe. We'd love for you to do that and follow along, and we appreciate you being here. It's so fun to come back on here and go live with you. You are right. For those of you watching, I do look a little dark. I'm just realizing it right now. Thanks, everybody, for watching. Come back Monday morning. We'll be here. We'll talk at 8 o'clock, 8:15 Mountain Time. And then we will be ready to go with the trial as opening statements, 8:30 a.m. Monday, with both the defense, both the prosecution. All of them will be there, and the trial will begin. Have a good day, everybody. Goodbye. Have a good weekend.